Okay, today we're going to speak about the ease in remaining firm, in practicing, in living Islam despite the odds. And again, that's what this whole series of lectures is about. How I'm trying to give you the tools you need to remain firm in practicing Islam despite the trials of life, despite the hypocrites, despite the unbelievers, despite the bad things that will happen to you in life. And of course, our example is always the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, remember guys, we talked about how when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam first received the revelation from Allah, when he was in that cave, and that he was to be a messenger, he was to convey the truth to others. He knew that the call to the truth had to be made despite the opposition. He didn't choose to be a prophet. He didn't choose to be a messenger. Allah chose him. And remember, we talked about how he spent the first 3 years of his prophethood in Mecca, trying to call the people to Islam. He would attend the Hajj ritual. He would stand out there outside the Kaaba speaking to the Arabs who had come from all over to make the migration to Hajj. He would stand there by the Kaaba trying to call them to the truth, call them to Islam. And remember, he was met with a lot of opposition. He was persecuted. He was slandered. He was beaten. He was called out his name. But he still remained firm. He went to that Kaaba every single day. Okay? And when the people came, he would say to them, he would say, "Oh people, listen to me. Say that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. And then you will be successful. And through this will you rule over the other Arabs, and the non-Arabs too will come to you, and they will offer allegiance to you. And if you say this, then if you die, you will be kings in paradise." He would stand outside the Kaaba making this statement every day to the people, the pilgrims who had come. But as he conveyed the message of the truth, the enemies of Allah, the enemies of Islam, they walked right behind him, trying to tear down whatever effect he made on anyone. The same as the hypocrites do today. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Let me give you an example as to what our prophet had to endure. Abu Lahab, he was one of the leaders of the Quraysh, and he was one of the biggest unbelievers. When the prophet would go and stand in front of the Kaaba making that announcement, talking to the people, Abu Lahab would walk behind him and he would tell the people, "Don't listen to him. He don't know what he's talking about. He's a liar. He's crazy. He's an innovator." And the simple fact that Abu Lahab was from his tribe, that Abu Lahab was one of his people, the people would listen to Abu Lahab. They believed him. Because who would dare speak badly about their own tribesmen? So the people would then reply to the Prophet Muhammad with the ugliest comments. They would say horrible things to him. They would say, "Your own people know you better. And since they don't listen to you and they don't follow you, why should we?" And this is the case today for us Muslims today, people trying to live the truth. It seems no matter what steps we take to live Islam in its truthfulness, based on the Quran and the authentic Sunnah, the hypocrites and the unbelievers, they do everything in their power to try to make us appear bad, no matter what you do, to try to live the truth and call the people to it. There's always going to be the enemies of Allah, the enemies of Islam, trying to make you look bad, trying to call the people away from what you're preaching. Someone says something good about you. Oh, that's a good sister over there. She's so sweet. Look how sweet that sister is. Oh, she's beautiful. She's so kind. Allah blessed her with a happy marriage and a happy family. If someone says something good about you, and then the enemies of the truth, they immediately come and try to strip you of that goodness. Oh, girl, her husband got another wife. She ain't all that. If she was all that, then why does her husband have 2, 3 wives? Her kids ain't all that good. I heard that they not smart in school. She must not be doing too well. She ain't got a car. So this is how the hypocrites and the unbelievers are. No matter what good a person says about you, they will come and try to strip you of that goodness and try to convince the people that you're not what you are. And this is what our prophet had to deal with too. So what's happening to us today is nothing new. It's nothing more than what the prophet went through. But again, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is and always will remain the best example for us, because despite the opposition that Abu Lahab and the others put up against him, Allah always sent relief, and Allah always sent reinforces to the Prophet Muhammad. And this is the case with us today too. Despite how hard we try to live this beautiful way of life and implement it into our practice, the hypocrites and the unbelievers will always try to oppose us, but Allah does send help, just as he did with our prophet. And let me give you an example. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stand out there trying to call the people to the truth. He did this for 3 years. For 3 years in Mecca. 3 years in Mecca. The Quraysh made fun of him. They ridiculed him. They refused to accept him. But there were other Arabs in Arabia. There were some Arabs who lived in the city of Medina. Medina was not close to Mecca. It was many miles away from Mecca. But the Arabs in Medina, they were a little bit different, okay? Because they lived with the Jews. And for the years, the Jews used to speak to them about how there would be another prophet to come. They used to say, a prophet will appear during our lifetime. And when he comes, we will follow him and we will kill you Arabs. The same way that Allah destroyed the Ad and the Thamud. The Ad and the Thamud, they were the original Arabs who Allah destroyed. So the Arabs of Medina, they grew up hearing stories about the coming of a new prophet. So when they went to perform the Hajj during the 3rd year of the prophet's prophethood, they happened to hear him. They saw this man standing in front of the Kaaba preaching to the people. And they saw the other people behind him making fun of him. But they said, wait a minute, let's listen. Let's listen to what this man has to say. In fact, one of these Arabs from Medina, he said, let's just pay attention here, because the Jews have been telling us that some prophet would appear. So let's just listen to what this man has to say. One of them said, by Allah that this is the one. This is the man whom we were warned about by the Jews, because they listened to the Prophet Muhammad. They said, subhanallah, he's talking about the things that the Jews told us would happen. So this man, he must be the man who the Jews have been speaking about for years. They said, perhaps we need to band with him, so that way the Jews won't band to him first. And that way the Jews won't overpower us. So these Arabs from Medina, they wanted to meet with the Prophet, because they said it would be better if we form allegiance with him before the Jews did. And later, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam met with them, and he talked to them about Islam. And guess what? Allah caused their hearts to accept the truth, and they immediately embraced Islam. They became Muslim on the spot. And when they went back home to Medina, they told the other Arabs there about this man Muhammad, about how he's preaching about what the Jews have talked about for years. So eventually, more and more of the Arabs from Medina began to embrace the call to Islam. And eventually, they all swore allegiance to the Prophet. They swore that they would protect him. They swore that they would give their allegiance to him. But they put one condition with it. They said, as long as you come to our city, as long as you come and live with us in Medina, we will protect you, and we will offer you our allegiance. So this is when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the Arabs of Medina to make the following pledge. He said, I want you guys to pledge to me that you will listen to me and you will obey me, whether you feel like doing it or not. I also want you to swear that you will spend in the cause of Allah, whether you are in difficulty or not. I also want you to pledge that you will command what is good and you will stay away from what is evil, and that you will stand in the cause of Allah, and you will not care what other people have to say about you. This is important. This is important. Because so many of us are concerned with what other people think and what other people say, not the believer. Remember, the believer is only concerned with pleasing Allah. Allah is the only one we should be concerned about who thinks about us. So the Prophet had them to pledge that they will stand in the cause of Allah and not care what others say. And also he had them pledge that they would support him. And if he comes to them, they would protect him with their lives. And he said, if you do all these things, then I can guarantee that you will have paradise as a reward. Subhanallah. So that's the pledge of allegiance that the Prophet had the Arabs of Medina to take. And of course they took that pledge. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ended up moving to Medina. And when he was in Medina, this is when he was able to truly continue to call to the truth without persecution. And so thus we see this is how Allah works. Remember, why does Allah send hardships to us? Allah sends hardships to us as a means of testing our faith and as a means of strengthening us. And Allah strengthened the Prophet Muhammad and then sent him support sent him support from others. And this is the case for us today. We learn so much from this. So many of us Muslims today, we go through a hard time trying to live this beautiful way of life, trying to implement it. As we live Islam to the best of our abilities, we often feel like we're alone. We feel like there's no one here to understand me. There's no Muslim here like me. Yeah, there's a lot of Muslims around, but most of them are innovators. Most of them are deviators. Most of them have no good manners. Most of them know nothing about Islam. In fact, most of the pain that I suffer is from the Muslims, not the Kafirs, from these hypocritical Muslims. We feel this way a lot. It seems that the people who are against us outnumber those who are for us. And just when we feel that we are at the end of our rope, just when you feel that you can take no more, just when you believe that this is it, I have no one around me who is like me to support me, Allah will then send you one person as a sign to show you're not alone. Let me give an example. How many of you sent me emails? Dear Sister Laila, I became Muslim 10 years ago, yet I never practiced my religion as I should. But now I want to be a good Muslim. I want to practice my religion to the best of my ability. But unfortunately, the Muslims around me, they're innovating. They're committing sins. They don't understand the deen. I feel so alone. So one day I was on the internet and I typed Islam and your website came up. And I clicked on that link. And I come in your website and mashallah, I hear you speaking, and it's like you were speaking to me, Sister Laila. It's like you knew what I was going through. Alhamdulillah, Allah has guided me, Sister Laila, to the truth, and I'll never leave your website. How many of you have sent me those type of emails? That was Allah. That was Allah guiding you. Just when you think that you're all alone and you have no one, that's when you pass your test. And Allah will always guide you to show you that you're not alone. There's others out there. There's others people out there who are trying to live the truth too. But Allah wanted you to go through that struggle. Allah wanted you to go through that purification. Allah wanted you to go through that uplifting of strength. And now He's guided you to the truth and to others. And when this happens, what happens? When you find that there is one person like you, it then becomes important to you. I want to be with her. I don't want to leave her company. I want to be with her. I want to stay with her. That's why many of you stay logged into this website all day and all night. Your computer's logged in. I don't want to leave that site at all. This is how it was with the Prophet Muhammad too, guys. When the Arabs of Medina accepted his call, this is when he migrated. In fact, that's when he sent the command to all the Muslims. He said, no longer is it lawful for us to live here in Mecca because we are not able to practice our deen openly. So now we all have to migrate to Medina. And so the Prophet and his companions, they left their home of Mecca and they all migrated to Medina. And Medina became the first Islamic state. Why? Because the Muslims, you want to be with people who are like you. Because we Muslims, we are all bricks. All bricks in one building. We support each other. We strengthen each other. When I'm going through weakness of faith, I know I can log on to my website and there's Amy. There's Amy to give me some words of strength. that you can log into this website and Sister Layla's going to give some powerful lecture that's going to touch your heart. Dr. Dramali is going to give some powerful khutbah. It's going to touch your heart. This is how we are. We gravitate to others who are like us. We are people of the truth, and we want to be with others like us. We're all bricks in one building. We strengthen and we support each other. And that's how the prophet was. And that's how his companions were. And we learned from them. They left their families, they left their money, they left their property, everything they had, to move to another city where they had nothing, but they had each other. They had each other and they had Allah. So thus, as Muslims today, as people today who are trying to live the truth, we need to understand the people of the truth are not a majority. We will always be of the minority. Remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, out of every 100 people you know, 99 of them will be in the hellfire. So that hadith right there tells you that the people of the truth are of minority in numbers. And for every step we try to take and convince the rest of the world that our way is the right way, there will always be hypocrites and people of falsehood following us around, trying to knock down any advancements we make. You type on Facebook, oh, what a powerful lecture given by Sister Layla. It strengthened my heart. Here comes the hypocrites. That woman's voice is too loud. That woman talks like a man, etc., etc., etc. This is how it is. Because remember, Shaitan doesn't want to see you advance. Shaitan doesn't want you to be that one that makes it to paradise. He wants you to be of those 99 who will be in hell. So he'll always have his allies out there trying to knock you down. But you should never lose hope. You should never give up. And just as you think that you are alone, Allah will send you a sign to show you that you're not alone. You just have to be able to recognize his signs. You guys understand that? And that's how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. And that's how his companions were. Finally, guys, we learn from this example of the Prophet migrating to Medina that it may be to our betterment to seek out the people of truth. And perhaps you may have to move. You may have to relocate to be near them. Because again, the greatest weapon that we have in the struggle against the enemies of Islam is each other. Again, we're all bricks. We're all bricks that make up one big, beautiful building. So we have to cling to each other. Despite how we are outnumbered by the hypocrites, despite how we are ridiculed by the unbelievers, we have to remain firm in practicing this deen, in its truthfulness, based on Quran, based on the authentic Sunnah, despite how the people make fun of us and lie on us. And we have to continue to hold on all together to the rope of Islam and not allow the hypocrites to pull us away from each other, to not allow the unbelievers to tear us apart. You make fun of one of us. You've made fun of all of us. But we're still clinging on all together to that rope. And we ain't letting go. We ain't letting go. You may laugh at us in this life. We will have the final laugh in the hereafter.